Welcome to the Accu-Trade VIN-dow podcast. This week, Bob talks about how much wholesale and retail gold can be found in a dealership's service department.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's VIN-dow with Robert Hollinshead. And today, Bob's got an interesting chat about flipping rocks and looking for salamanders. Go ahead, Bob.
Morning, Sean. It's a lovely day in the neighborhood, and a springtime day, pollen everywhere. It's a beautiful day, though. So, Sean, you know, when we look left and right and see everybody's panic attack for inventory, nobody can believe the prices. I'm not going to buy because I'm going to get caught, and all the rest of it. I just want to help folks understand how our software, I think, can help in a really dramatic way, not just today when we're desperate for any kind of car that may or may not make sense, but in the very near future. Could be 2 months, could be 4 months, might be 6 months. If tires aren't built, maybe it's a year, but sometime soon it's also just as applicable. And that's being sure that we are getting all of the juice out of the orange, all of it, like all the way past the seeds and so forth, in the service area. So when you think about it, the average, store has between 80 and 200 tickets being written a day, each one for a specific car. It's not remote service, it's in-house service. So we know that the vehicles are there, so that kind of eliminates the concept of how and where they're going to be and how we're going to go get them and all the rest of it, right? And what this really boils down to is doing a full, if you were using our software, it's a full appraisal on every single car. Now, that's with an OBD plug-in. So when you plug in a unit, and we know the value, but we also know the physical condition and the mechanical condition and the electrical condition, we've changed the dynamic in the dealership in a bunch of different ways, right? Number one, your sales department knows who's in for service, what the car is, how much it's worth, and what's wrong with it. That's number one. So that's right there on your appraisal board at the dealership. It's not there now, but it is using this tool. It's there if you're using Accu-Trade, and the lead shows up as a service drive lead, right? So that's only going to become important in a second. It's got something to do with knowing where your customer is and making sure that you didn't just sell them one car and none to his family. It's having a different kind of relationship with the consumer. They're in for service. You know they're there. You know how much their car is. You know what type of opportunity it is to actually touch them, whether it's for wholesale or for retail, to buy, to trade, or to find the opportunity of getting a little juice out of that unit, even if you just have to go ahead and wholesale it. So that's one. Two, there's a universal circumstance that exists in every single dealership in the United States and Canada. It's been that way traditionally. I've been in the business just under 50 years, and it was that way from the first day that I got in the car business. There's a sibling rivalry that exists between the service and sales. Now, you can say it doesn't, but it doesn't make any difference. It absolutely 100% exists because of miscommunication. Our tool set is built specifically to mitigate that miscommunication. I'm just going to go off on a tangent for 1 second to give, like a reference to what we're talking about. If you've ever been indicted by the FBI and they come to ask you questions, they don't ask random questions. They only ask questions they already know the answer to. And when they do that, they reveal a lot of things about you. Well, if you're lying, if you lie about dumb things, you're going to lie about important things, right? In the case of trading a car, you could be the best appraiser in the world, walk the car in 2 seconds, touch the edges, know all about this, that, and the other thing. You start it up, listen to the thing, and put it in front reverse, and don't have to take it out because you know right away whether anything's wrong with it because you touched reverse, it didn't slip, you bang it didn't. And therefore, you've got a number. And now what you do is, take that number and try to make a deal, new car deal, used car deal, whatever. But what you've done is you only about half of what's important to understand what the vehicle's worth, because the surprise attack is lurking. And the surprise attack is always delivered by the service manager. It's never delivered, ahead of time, so that you can actually mitigate or anticipate the circumstance that causes the sibling rivalry I spoke about earlier, where it's physically impossible for a used car manager and a service manager to actually ever have lunch together. They can't break bread under any circumstances, and this is the reason why. 83% of the time you trade a car, you put it in the shop, he's got bad news. So that from a Pavlovian sense, you do something and the dog, like, let's say, reacts bad, and then he's got an approach avoidance complex going on. The only time the service manager has something to say to you is when 83% of the time when it's something bad. Now, you can't say, oh, I can't wait to go have lunch with the service manager. He's my best friend because he always tells me good things, right? That's like when the noise is too loud in an auction block, you automatically walk out, because after this car, you can't sit there. Your brain's pounding. That's why I'm deaf today. 50 years of auctions, right? They're selling them on an auction block. And in other words, the noise is too loud. Why is that? Because I'm making the noise. So it's not somebody else's fault. But it chases people away because it's so loud, you're only there for the torture of buying that one car and disappearing. So it's the same thing of the noise that you're hearing from your service manager telling you bad news constantly. He never tells you good news. Hey, that car was just in for service. It don't take nothing to get that on the front line. You never heard it once in your life. Even if the car's under warranty, you'll find 11 reasons why. So all of that being a given, right, here's how we mitigate. It's Accu-Trade's OBD. In other words, when you plug that sucker in, not only do you reveal the McGillicuddy's propensity, may potentially, buyers are liars, right? In other words, potentially fib or not be totally, like honest about the condition of their car, even though you got to be completely, transparent with your car. Understand perfectly. But we've disrobed them. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to sell them something. It just means you're no longer guessing. You're now dealing with facts. Okay. So if you're dealing with facts, before that car goes in the service drive, before it goes in for service to find out what it's going to take to put it on the front line, you already know it. Now, if you already know it, it's an FBI question. When you put it into service, right, you already know what he's going to tell you. And if he tells you something different, it might not be true. Of course, nobody would ever have that happen. I'm not implying that it would. The facts are that you already know, and that means you've already traded related to knowing, and therefore he can't give you bad news. It's impossible. You already know the dent and scratch because Dent Wizard's on the way to fix it, right? So you already calculated that. It's already in the tool. It's in the condition report of the tool, and the other piece happens to be there as well. We know that it's got a cam phaser noise, the catalytic converter took a fart, or whatever else may be the case, but you already knew it. So by knowing, it enables the lack of a surprise attack from the purveyor of bad news 83% of the time. And all of a sudden, it's a different communication set, because one is not telling you things that you can't listen to with the ice pick in your ear every time he opens his trap up, right? Now, if that's true, think about service drive. So customer brings in car. We have dealers that are using a service drive. They're picking off 30 cars a month they otherwise would never have known about. And here's the reason why. It doesn't cost anybody anything. When you actually plug in, prior to the car going into the snap-on on the rack in the shop, everybody already knows. What they mean by that is the sales department already knows everything about who's in the service drive, what their car is, good or bad or indifferent. Got to be a Carfax, got the three things, the 2 light SRS, now, a dome light needs repair, left rear tail light. Okay, so we know everything about that unit, and it hasn't gone in the service drive yet. Think about the opportunity that exists at that moment for, if you got 15 salespeople, there's 3 of them where the light bulb is on. If the light bulb's on, and here it is at 9:45 in the morning, and you've got 63 leads sitting in front of your face because you know who's in service and what the car's worth. Now that's the kind of lead that's different than just start pounding the phones. Yeah, open up the New York City phone book and start making random calls right now. These cars are already sitting at the dealership. You follow me? Everybody's desperate for inventory. So if we're looking to grab something that is retailable, you can actually decide if you're going to pay $3,000 more than the tool says, because that's what you're going to pay on an auction block. But you didn't have to pay an auction fee. You didn't have to go get it. And you didn't have to guess who sold it new. And you don't have to. All you're doing is doing your very best to take care of the customer that gave you the respect of bringing it in for service. Nothing else. You don't have to hawk them. You don't have to drive them crazy. But the guarantee is you're going to pick off 1, 2, 3. If somebody's working 3 a day, if you do, there could be maybe only one that's good for retail. But I swear to God, we got 1,000 cars at the auction tomorrow. Not everyone is a brand new car with 4,000 miles with no paint work. There's a bunch of cars in there that we bought to have paint work that have different challenges that hopefully we mitigated those challenges before they hit the block. But those cars have wholesale opportunity, right? And if a used car manager's light bulb is on dim, they would understand perfectly how to, let's call it, exercise those opportunities to make sure there's no juice left before McGillicuddy comes back to pick up the keys for their serviced car, right? Now, if those things are true, and everybody's scratching their head doing 400 proxy bids, couldn't get the car, didn't know where to, now you can't get transportation, and the arbitration's broke because they're using a condition report nobody in the world could ever figure out. In other words, everything, and of course you didn't figure out anything. And by the way, when you get back to the dealership, you know where you have to go? To sibling rivalry. You still got to push in the shop. So you still got your thumb up your rear end deciding whether you're going to be able to keep it or not, or how much you're going to spend. And since you made the commitment, it took you 2 weeks to get the car in, the good part is it didn't go down in value because everything's going up in value. But the bad part is, in other words, you almost got aged inventory. You didn't even get it yet. And you got to stop and think about that, right? You're 2 weeks into the car. Wasn't anybody's fault. Just couldn't get it. Couldn't get a release. Couldn't do this. Couldn't do that, right? And yet at the same time, you got, in an average little dealership, 100 opportunities to go pick off. Think about how much time it takes you to do your proxy bids, if anybody does them. Like we typically see, 2,200 proxy bids on our junks going to the auction, right? Which is, that means 2,200 people took the time and effort, gave us the respect to look, put a number in and, see if they're going to be, if the jack in the box is going to pop out for them, right? That takes a lot of time, man. It takes way more time than it does to actually look in your appraisals of Accu-Trade to see, cruise through the service drive appraisals to pick off the opportunities. You already got everybody's phone number. You know everything about it. You're not even surprised attacking them, to tell you the truth, because he already knows his cars at the dealership. So I'm thinking about my own car myself, my wife's car. She won't let me get her a new car. She can't stand new cars. She hates cars, by the way. And as a result, I got to take her little thing, that's probably 6 or 7 years old right now, in for service. And I'm thinking about this when, they come to pick it up. If somebody at the dealership, which they never do, ever, never, and these are, it's a Mercedes dealership that probably does 300 cars a month. In other words, they're really good at what they do. They got a chain of dealerships. They're friends of ours. We've been buying cars from them for just about 50 years. And they're good at what they do. There's one small problem. They don't call to see if we want something different than this little 30,000-mile car that gets driven 2,000 miles a year, because it's a dream come true for them. By the way, I bought it new from them. So it's a dream. It's been serviced there since we bought it. It's a dream come true. You put it on a 45-degree angle on the front line. If it's not sold in 32 seconds, you got to tilt the building and throw all the salespeople out because they're sleeping. That car is an instant retail car. But nobody calls to say, sir, Mr. Hockenschlepper, would you like to sell or trade? We got a wonderful thing, and we give you a car, and we really want your car, and we'd love to buy it, and like that, right? Nobody ever does it. So there's an opportunity, and I really would say, yeah, sure, tell me what you got. You got a white one? I'll take it. You follow me? I'd do that 2 seconds, and she wouldn't even know the difference because she don't know what a car is. Bring it back, and it'll look cleaned. and everybody's got a big smile on their face. That's a personal circumstance that would happen today if someone just give me the nudge, the Pavlovian nudge. That's all. And it would be a fait accompli in 2 seconds. If that's true, and that's a big service department, they're writing 180, 200, maybe more ROs a day. But nobody is following what's underneath their nose. But you can even get, oh, no, we got guys doing that. No, you don't. You ain't got nobody that's got a plug-in appraisal market data tool that is doing it. I don't want to shove this on somebody. All it is when we're talking about you can't get cars, we don't know where to get them, everything's screwed up, the thing is broken. This is the biggest opportunity that exists in the automotive industry today. Cost next to zero, and the functionality at only this level. Forget everything else, right? It's a no-brain. It's a no-brain 15-minute of training. Car dealers are weird, right? In other words, they're creatures of habit, and they definitely would not spend 40 cents to have Jesus Christ come or Mohammed come to the showroom to close deals today, because unless they really know they got ROI coming, I'm not interested. I'm doing fine without it. You follow me? That's a normal thing for a car dealer. And to me, the frustration is in understanding, being one, right? Understanding the opportunity that everybody squanders. It's very frustrating. It's the only reason why I thought this would be a good topic to bring up and to potentially give a little nudge to any listener. Not another vendor, because that's a lot of people listen that are vendors. I'm talking about car dealers. You're missing the boat if you're not exploiting it. Period. End of the story. Nothing to talk about. It's not even like a debatable item. No other tool set in the industry does it today. Not coming soon. No, today, where you could actually have a individual or two work in the service drive to actually make the introduction to the sales department of what's there in order to acquire, to buy, to retail, to wholesale, and then B, in the trade-in side, to know what you bought or traded before you get the bad news from your service manager. I think that's basically what I was looking to cover today, Shawnee. It's it's something that obviously today is as appropriate as it could ever be because of lack of inventory. But when we go into, and it's going to happen, the opposite, where you got inventory coming out your ears. I hope it never happens, because I love this market. The market's just unbelievable. It's unrealistic, so it doesn't seem like it could last. It's like you hit the lottery every day, which it can't be that way, right? Something's going to blow up to disable that. But when it does, the exact same circumstances of knowing the answer to the question before you ask it. In other words, plug it in, know exactly what you got. It doesn't matter if it's a catfish or a trout. You handle it like a catfish or a trout. It's a different way of it's a fish, but it's just different. So you have the knowledge to handle it differently. Which one do you fillet? Which one do you got to boil to get the mud out of it, right? In other words, it's just a little different. But knowing what's a fish, yeah, I want to know what kind of fish it is before we, decide what we're going to do with it, right? I think that's it for today, Shawnee, unless you got anything that we skipped over here from previous torture sessions I put you through. Yep.
That's perfect for today. Thank you, Bob.
All right. I hope everybody has a wonderful spring day.
Yeah, and just reach out if anybody wants to actually see a service drive in operation. We've got lots doing it, and we can show you some of the best practices some of the dealerships are doing. So that's just my plug. Sorry, Bob, to do that, but
no problem, bro. Have fun, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Dig, go sell cars.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every week for a new episode where we chat with Bob Hollinshead, founder of Accu-Trade and the largest independent vehicle wholesaler in North America.